You got a bit of yellow on you. No, on your hand.
Welcome back to the search for the worst Gumball episode. Let's get straight into it with today's episode, The Girlfriend. Also plug in my Discord. So for you to understand why people don't like this episode, we have to talk about Jamie.
It's lunchtime. That is not what I asked for. Not in the mood for banana.
She's a supporting character throughout the series and a school bully, who can be seen terrorizing others despite what little screen time she's had. Her character took a turn around season 3, where she was used more and her character developed. Before then, she was just another student in the background.
Hey, look! I'm gonna throw the TV out of the window!
Please, allow me.
Jamie slowly turned into her bully form around episodes such as The Coach, her first major episode but not first appearance. However, it is this episode where we get Jamie in her prime and solidify her character as a violent brute who doesn't know any better. So Jamie goes around terrorizing everyone, and we get a few jokes that really went under the radar for how messed up they are. Between Banana Joe letting Jamie eat his brain, and Anton cutting the crust off of his body, and Jamie instructing him to eat himself, it's something that would have only worked because these are food-based characters, I'll just say that. Jamie thinks it's going to be a regular day stealing someone's lunch and eating it, but when Jamie is confused on why Alan would share what he has with someone, we see the catalyst to this episode.
Maybe you'd feel better if you found someone to share things with. Well played, you made her think. That buys us some time to escape.
I love the fact that it takes Jamie a really long time to think, really showing that she's so deep and stuck in her ways that she doesn't often need to think about things. It's that sort of inside joke that revolves around this episode. She deduces that she needs a sweetheart, which creates a random explosion that can be anything from Jamie's realization being explosive or Squidward falling off of his bike. She turns to Darwin, and that is when this episode gets its bad reputation. From all the time you have seen Jamie bully others, both before and after this episode, she doesn't exactly strike people as compassionate. However, allow me to turn over to another episode that sort of tries what this episode is trying to do, The Fight. The Fight was a season 1 episode revolving around Tina and Gumball supposedly having a fight over miscommunications, despite being good friends. Although a little bit more endearing and less comedic with its execution, what I enjoy about the fight is that Gumball and Tina did not hate each other, nor were really pushing to fight, but everyone else around them were just so fearful of Tina and protective of Gumball that they assumed that this big dinosaur was going to bully them. It was really endearing because towards the end we see Tina introspectively talking about how she doesn't exactly want to be seen as a brute like her dad. It's just that while other people like Anton or Idaho, when they get mad, it's not exactly intimidating. When a dinosaur, let alone a Tyrannosaurus Rex, gets upset, the intimidation factor is amplified, and that she's at her core no different than the other kids, just separated by species. Here we kind of get the same deal with Jamie, and explore her character in a way that both gives a full view of her, but also a lot of different dynamics that we may not normally see. She turns to Darwin, and Gumball is very worried and concerned that Darwin may get hurt if he so much as breathes the wrong way around her.
Why did you say nothing when she asked you out?
Because when a gorilla charges you, you stay still and say nothing. I saw it on TV.
Dude, she's not a gorilla.
What is she then?
She's your new girlfriend.
You know, I was also curious about what Jamie is. Is she an ox? Is she another dinosaur, considering that her only friend seems to be Tina? Is she like Chowder, where she's just a lot of different things? Well, this is coming straight from the wiki. She has traits of an ox, which would be her horns, large teeth, and hooves. A lion, which would be her tail and orange coloring. A frog, which would be her skin coloring. And various other animal species as well. So Jamie is, well, Jamie. Darwin decides the best way to go about this is to not say anything, which, whew buddy, that never goes well, and I can assure you that from personal experience. When Darwin and Jamie meet up after now being together, we see that Gumball is often the source of pain and slapstick around them. I don't necessarily have a problem with this because his character has always been that source, and I've almost never had that problem before. I love Jamie's new voice in the later seasons. Having her voice be a little bit more gruff really puts together this bully image.
Perfume? Are you saying I smell bad? Gosh darn it! Sorry, honey. Lost my temper there for a second. See you at lunch.
I wonder if Jamie got this perfume from the famous perfume department. I feel like I should say now in case anyone is waiting for me to really lambast this episode. I like Jamie. I've always had a thing for meaner characters within a show. My favorite Cartoon Network show is Ed, Edd n Eddy. I love Invader Zim. I love Courage the Cowardly Dog. I love Gary from Final Space. And I love Gumball from, well, you take a guess. I don't mind characters who aren't poster childs for sweetness and kindness, because growing up, I wasn't either. In fact, I'm still not. I definitely was not a bully either, but I have an affinity for the character who isn't exactly nice, but isn't a major league villain either, especially when they have these occasional random acts of kindness. So with that, you can probably deduce that I don't hate this episode. I enjoy the fact that Jamie has this swift animation that makes her punches and kicks seem lightning fast. Blink and you'll miss it. I love how disciplined she is from her coach mother, that she's been pounded in the message to apologize when you feel like you've done something wrong, like what she's done with Darwin. I also like how this is just Jamie's way of taking something, like with the food, just a little bit more major than that. Gumball expresses more concern, and Darwin finally states something on his end that isn't from a nature documentary.
Were you just gonna sit in silence up there? Why aren't you saying anything?
Simple. Her problem is that she doesn't understand love, so the best thing to do is to wait quietly until she works it out for herself.
But dude, you're encouraging her.
We shouldn't see Darwin as the wise voice of reason, not really the knowledgeable source here. Even though it's a cartoon and there are writers behind these characters, they still have to portray them as children who lack the proper experience. If they had the right answer for everything, not only would that be unrealistic, it'd also just be a boring and quick episode. I understand Gumball's role in this, but I also understand Jamie and Darwin's. However, this episode isn't all good though. We do have some parts that I don't necessarily enjoy, like all the parts with Richard.
Who is she?
Your future daughter-in-law.
Really? Darwin! Woohoo! Ay, ay, ay!
Not gonna lie, Richard kinda deserves a lacrosse stick in his head after that performance. We also see that Gumball keeps pushing on Darwin to act rather than acting himself, which is a very Gumball thing to do, so it's reasonable. Darwin on the other hand stops saying things such as Jamie needs more time to figure things out, and then goes into saying nothing at all. And I don't like that either. I wish Darwin kept ensuring Gumball that he's only sacrificing his safety in order to help Jamie understand how to handle relationships better in the future. Putting the ethical nature aside, I suppose I just see this episode in a different frame because it's not trying to tell me that this is the right way, when every other character except Darwin feels like this is the right way. We see that the episode starts to turn things up when Jamie makes Gumball her boyfriend as well, not seeing the difference between a boyfriend and a friend that's a boy. This leads into Gumball running away rather than standing by and submitting to the relationship. I love the scenes to come. We see that Jamie is trying all of the cliches of love, however with a clear, intimidating spin on them. It really seals the deal that she is trying, and she does truly mean well, but as a bully slash troglodyte, she's just ignorant and doesn't seem more than how she generally acts. I also love the lighting here. It gives us a better view and mood of the school, and how she never seems to want to hurt Gumball, but her brute attitude is just much for most.
I can't do this. I can't force you to be my boyfriend. That's not how love works. If you want to be in a relationship, there has to be a mutual bond of trust. Love is not something you take, it's something you earn. I'm done now!
This episode kind of gives me an opportunity to do some meta conversation about reviewing. Kind of convenient that it's about The Amazing World of Gumball, of all shows that bring up meta stuff, but one of my major criticisms I see of this episode is that it shows people that you should be completely compliant in an abusive relationship, and eventually things will smooth out. However, I don't agree, like, at all. This episode goes through great lengths to show you that Jamie is not a nice person, and the audience can easily pick that up without needing to see a review on it. Moreover, it is shown that everyone avoids Jamie specifically because she's violent and mean. The episode also shows you that the main characters, Gumball and Darwin, both know and understand that Jamie is not nice, not entirely safe to be around, and not girlfriend material. Even with all of that, the episode also shows you that Jamie doesn't exactly know what she's doing either, which leads you to see that this is not a well-informed crew on relationships, the way that retrospectively we are. Children may lack the social experience that they'd gain over a lifetime of conversations, but they're not idiotic. The fact that many of us, excluding myself, dislike Jamie and think that this is an awful relationship, like the characters do as well, means that we all understand the nuance here. The episode shows us what it would be like to date the emotionally confused bully, and shows the misadventures that come with that, and most of us can come away with the conclusion that you shouldn't do it. Why do people expect that when you're young, you think the opposite? That's not how morals work. For this criticism to be valid, we'd have to see Darwin and Gumball enjoy being abused, or think that they must stay in this relationship for fear of a worse consequence, and the episode ends that way. I don't like to review things on a moral-driven purpose, unless the show explicitly is trying to push morals, which, if you think Gumball is, I have nothing to tell you. Also, it can just be very subjective from person to person of what they take away from an episode and how they perceive the validity of a moral. I don't expect children or teens to see this episode and jump into a relationship later on because it's abusive, or use this episode as a guide on what to do. We don't grab our character, the way that we are, our personalities, and the way that we see things, our preferences, from a singular instance of media, so in this case, one episode. That's not even how abusive relationships work. A lot of times, you don't even know the other person is abusive until much later. A lot of times, the public intimidation from Jamie, or the abuser in a couple, would be sorted out by someone in the school. A lot of times, you would know who a bully is, either in retrospect or blatantly. So I don't agree with the criticism. Plus, it's a cartoon, and cartoons can exaggerate certain aspects for comedy or plot and still work out well.
Love is not something you take, it's something you earn.
You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what love is?
You know, dude, all you had to do was keep your mouth shut and say nothing.
I think this part is what most people grasp onto for showing the moral of keeping quiet would be better. However, the issue is that the episode has made it clear that if Darwin had done anything earlier, rather than stick to his ways, and also have seen the context of Jamie's realization that this wouldn't have happened, and like he speculated, this would have blown over. That couldn't be the moral if we as the audience can see that this could have been lessened or avoided in a myriad of ways. But anyway, that was The Girlfriend. Do I think this is the worst episode? Obviously not. In fact, this might be the best episode in the search for the worst so far. I wouldn't call it my favorite episode, but it's not a bad episode. What other episode should I cover in the search for the worst Gumball event? Let me know in the comments down below. Until then, special thanks to the supporters of April. And until next time, take care. Alpha out.